So today we're once again going to talk about anger management and stoicism, and in particular we're going to talk about how Marcus Aurelius thinks about controlling your anger and managing your anger, and he apparently has some techniques and some thoughts and some tips in his book Meditations that you might know if you're familiar with Stoicism. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It seems to be a guest post, so it is not by Ryan Holiday, even though we are on the Daily Stoic site. And anyway, I'm gonna read because it is a fairly dense article. It's not very long, but it is dense. But yeah, this is a guest post. How to Control Your Anger, Lessons from Marcus Aurelius. This is a guest post by Donald Robertson. Donald is a cognitive behavioral therapist, trainer, and writer. Robertson has been tirelessly researching Stoicism and applying it in his work for 20 years. He's also the author of the remarkable new book on Marcus Aurelius, How to Think Like a Roman Emperor, which I think is pretty cool. By the way, I've read Gladiator, the book. It's amazing. And I think I've also read a book on Alexander the Great, and it's been also pretty good. But it's just really some time since then. Anyway, so how do we cope with, I'm gonna zoom in. So how do we cope when we begin to feel anger? This was one of the most important questions addressed by ancient Stoicism. We have an entire book that survives today by Seneca called On Anger, which describes Stoic self-help using a repertoire of psychological therapy techniques for overcoming that particular emotion. However, the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius also focus on applying Stoicism to this problem. In one remarkable passage, Marcus provides a list of 10 distinct strategies for overcoming anger, which he learned from his Stoic teachers. He calls them gifts from the 9 muses and their leader Apollo, the Greek god of healing. Marcus returns to these 10 gifts from Apollo and his muses over and over again throughout Meditations, often listing 2 to 3 of them in different combinations, but always drawn from the comprehensive list he provides in this key passage, which seems to be Meditations 11.18. Is it site 11 and 18th row? I don't know. I unfortunately just don't know. He even describes how he deals with other angry people by gently encouraging them to think the same way. Perhaps he's recollecting a difficult conversation with his wayward son Commodus when he imagines himself saying, "No, my son, we were born for something other than this. It is not I who am harmed, it is you who are causing harm to yourself." The second piece of advice, there is a very common Stoic strategy, reminding ourselves that our unhealthy passions, such as anger, actually do us more harm than the things we are upset about. It is not I who am harmed by your anger. Ironically, it is who are causing harm to yourself. However, it is the first part of Marcus' advice that I want to focus on, where he imagines saying we were born for something other than this. Although it is easy to overlook this brief remark, Marcus intended it as an allusion to a very important Stoic teaching, one to which he refers many times throughout the Meditations. For example, Book 2 opens with one of the text's most loved and widely quoted passages. And this is a quote now. "Say to yourself at the start of the day, I shall meet with meddling, ungrateful, violent, treacherous, envious, and unsociable people. They are subject to all these defects because they have no knowledge of good and bad. But I, who have observed the nature of the good and seen that it is the right, and of the bad, and seen that it is the wrong, and of the wrongdoer himself, and seen that his nature is akin to my own, not because he is of the same blood and seed, but because he shares as I do in mind, and thus in a portion of the divine. I then can neither be harmed by these people nor become angry with one who is akin to me, nor can I hate him, for we have come into being to work together, like feet, hands, eyelids, or the 2 rows of teeth in your upper and lower jaws. To work against one another is therefore contrary to nature, and to be angry with another person and turn away from him is surely to work against him." And we see nature again, which is something that I've been talking about in the other episode that I've recorded just before. Notice what Marcus says here, as in the previous passage, he cannot be harmed by those who are angry with him or even betray him. Moreover, he cannot be angry with someone he views as his own kin, as long as he bears in mind the Stoic principle that nature intended them to work together. We are all kin in the brotherhood of mankind and fellow citizens in the universal city of nature, according to Stoic cosmopolitanism. Like pairs of eyes, hands, feet, or 2 rows of teeth. It is though nature designed us to work in harmony and thereby achieve through cooperation more than we ever could by working alone or in conflict with one another. And yes, this is definitely the case, and I think this is definitely something that we can see as well. Like, I think Elon Musk said something once that, or it is, well, a common example therefore is a mouse. A mouse like this, a computer mouse. You need multiple people to manufacture a computer mouse. You need somebody that is able to just bend plastic. You need somebody that is able to just have lasers. You need somebody, I'm very bad at explaining this example, but you need multiple people to be able to just make this one piece of art, if you will, or piece of thing. No. This is what the Stoics meant by saying that humans are naturally both rational and social animals. From this premise, they conclude that we have a duty to ourselves both to reason well and to live in harmony with others. Of course, as Marcus recognizes, often people don't want to live very harmoniously and they may become angry with you, lie to you, betray you, and treat you like an enemy. Nevertheless, according to the Stoics, we shouldn't reciprocate by returning hate for hate. The wise man or woman is unfazed by insults or attacks and deals wisely with others, regardless of the circumstances. As Socrates explains in Plato's Crito, lovers of wisdom allow themselves to indulge neither in anger nor the desire for revenge. And there's a quote by Crito. Let us take as the starting point of our discussion the assumption that it is never right to do wrong or to repay wrong with wrong, or when we suffer evil to defend ourselves by doing evil in return. Crito 49c. Marcus likewise begins his list of anger management strategies by stating, first, consider how you stand in relation to them and how we were born to help one another. Whenever I think of this part of Stoicism, it always reminds me of a famous speech from the time of Socrates, known as the Great Discourse of Protagoras. Protagoras was the first of the sophists. Although the sophists are criticized by Socrates, he also admired and respected those like Protagoras who spoke well about virtue. In Plato's dialogue named after him, Protagoras delivers a remarkable speech, the Great Discourse, which was meant to inspire listeners with the same sense of natural kinship that Marcus Aurelius wrote about nearly 600 years later. Protagoras argues that when the gods, or rather the Titan, Prometheus, created all creatures, they were given special capabilities required for self-preservation. Large animals can protect themselves by virtue of their size, and small ones by burrowing underground or flying away from danger. Some animals are given sharp teeth or claws, and others hard shells for protection. Every animal has its way of surviving the changing situations or seasons and other challenges of its environment. Yes, this is definitely the case, and we can see that in animals and plants and whatever. As we would say today, each is well adapted in its own way due to the evolutionary principle of survival of the fittest. However, Protagoras imagines that human beings were left until last and therefore missed out on wings, claws, and hard shells and other advantages when it comes to self-preservation. And this apparently seems to be the reason why we need to be fucking social. After observing for a while and noticing how human beings were struggling to survive, Zeus decided to help them out by granting them the gift of justice so that bonds of friendship would have the opportunity to form between them. Protagoras claims that Zeus planted the capacity for social virtue or justice in every human heart. He argues that this is proven by the fact that if someone is incompetent at any normal skill, such as dancing or playing the flute, it's treated merely as a joke. By contrast, if someone appears incapable of observing the law and justice, it's taken extremely seriously. They would be banished from society or even executed by the Athenians. Indeed, someone who knows that he isn't just, he would be foolish to admit the fact in public because it is considered profoundly shameful by every other citizen. Whether or not he had read the Great Discourse of Protagoras, Marcus would have been familiar with similar arguments from later philosophers. All humans naturally have the potential for social virtues like justice, kindness, or fairness. In order for families or communities to exist, we each need to exhibit at least a minimum degree of friendship and social virtue in our relationships with one another. And yes, we also just need friendships and relationships to stay healthy. However, the finest among us, great horses, great heroes, and enlightened philosophers such as Pericles and Socrates have developed their natural capacity for justice and friendship to its highest level and are rightly admired for doing so. This was Marcus' first gift from Apollo and his muses when it comes to healing our anger, reminding ourselves that nature intended us to help one another. The list of 10 strategies he provides can be summarized as follows, and I think it's well worth learning. And now we have the list, and I'm gonna highlight this fucking list because it seems to be quite important, at least for me. First, we are all naturally social animals designed to help one another. Second of all, consider the character of others as a whole. Third, nobody does wrong willingly. Yeah, apparently. And by the way, I also believe in that. I don't know why, but I believe in the good of everybody. It's not necessarily always something good. It's not necessarily always something that I can maybe even recommend. But well, I can recommend it indeed. But yeah, sometimes it feels off. Nobody's perfect, yourself included. You can never be certain of other people's motives. Yes. Remember, we all will die. This is actually a good one. It is our own judgment that upsets us. Anger does us more harm than good. Nature gave us virtues such as kindness to counteract anger, and it's madness to accept others to be perfect, to expect others to be perfect. I've only touched on the first of these here because in some respect it's the most fundamental for Stoics. However, there is more in-depth discussion of the other 9 in How to Think Like a Roman Emperor. If you're looking for more ways, blah, 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 there is a guide and stuff like that. I do think that I'm actually going to end this episode there. I don't want to stretch it. It feels very compact. It feels very good. I wish you the best health of happiness and also success, and also hope that you're going to remind yourself and you're going to be remembered, which basically means your legacy and means just being a nice person and also being remembered as a nice person, which is a pretty fucking cool thing. 3 other questions that I have you are: why are you here? What are you trying to change and what is bothering you the most? These 3 questions are hopefully going to show you your purpose and maybe even a business idea, which is indeed as well a pretty cool thing. Another thought that I'm having you is: what could you say to a person, particularly say? And of course, you can do a lot of things, you can create a lot of things, but what could you say to another person that is really going to change their life and that is really going to make a difference? And that is really going to change how they view things and how happy they are, what feelings they're feeling, what motivation they have, and all these things. What could you do? What could you say? But yeah, with that being said, I'm hopefully going to see you the next time. Bye-bye. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. And I'm hopefully going to see you the next time. I really dearly hope.